Hello, everyone, and welcome to this in-session webinar brought to you today by Massage Magazine. Today's presenter is Priscilla Fleming. Priscilla is an educator, small business owner, and published author. She has experience working as a massage therapist in spa settings, chiropractic offices, private practices, and wellness centers. She owns a private massage studio and is an ethics instructor. Priscilla's continuing education course, Safety and Solicitation, Gaslighting, and Power Dynamics, was created after her own experiences with sexual harassment in the industry. Today, Priscilla is going to present information on gaslighting and power dynamics in the session room, intended to help you practice massage safely. Welcome, Priscilla.
Thank you so much, Karen, and thank you to Massage Magazine for having me today. I'm super excited to talk to you all about gaslighting and safety in the treatment room. As Karen has mentioned, I am clinically certified in neuromuscular therapy and structural bodywork. I'm the owner of a private practice here in Concord, North Carolina. I am a self-published author. I have written the Body Worker's Guide for Soft Tissue Pain Patterns. I'm the former ethics instructor at NC School of Massage, and I am a board-approved provider. A little bit about my massage journey is I graduated from NC School of Massage in 2019, and the harassment that I had to endure was almost immediate. The second I got licensed and I created my business social media page and my business cell phone line went live, I got flooded with all types of disgusting, vulgar, and just inappropriate messages. And my first real life predatory experience happened in my first month of being licensed. It was at the first establishment that I worked for. It was a private practice inside of a very large commercial building. From the outside of the building, it didn't look like anything super special, just a generic commercial building. But inside was this very, very large, beautiful open courtyard. And one day I was in the courtyard and I was eating lunch, just having a good time, enjoying the scenery. And there was a gentleman in the courtyard who was on his phone and kind of staring at me. It was definitely uncomfortable, but it was okay. And then it sounded like he was watching pornography on his phone. So it was terrifying because the courtyard was it was blocked off from the parking lot and from the road. So you couldn't see anything. And then all of the windows either faced the parking lot or they faced the trees and the foliage. So the courtyard itself was pretty isolated. So now I was in the position where I was starting to panic a little bit. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't sure if I should leave. What if he follows me to my car? What if he follows me home? What if he now recognizes my car and he's like waiting to see if it's here or when it's not here? And I didn't want to go to my suite because at that time of day, I was the only person in my suite. So then I'd be in an even more isolated situation. I sat there for what felt like eternity. My heart's racing a little bit just even thinking about this story. And then I just panicked. And then finally, I just started screaming, "Are you watching porn? I'm so uncomfortable." And then he was fidgeting with his bags. He started cursing at me. And then eventually he left. And I just still sat there frozen because all of those fears that I had of leaving were still there. What if he's waiting? I can't use the stairwell. What if he's out by the cars? I don't know what to do. So again, after what felt like forever, I finally worked up the nerve and I went to my suite and I just cried. I almost quit the industry in that moment because I now had to navigate this completely traumatic event with also having to navigate a brand new industry that put me alone in dark, isolated rooms with strangers. So now I'm trying to process this trauma, and I only had a few minutes to do it because I was waiting for a scheduled client to come in. So this was a very, almost a turning point for what I thought I was getting into versus what I was actually getting into in this industry. And then it turns out that although that was on the extreme end of situations that I've encountered, it wasn't an isolated incident. I went on to experience various degrees of harassment and solicitation at almost every location I worked. As Karen mentioned, I've worked in private practices, I've worked in chiropractic offices, wellness centers, franchises, and there's always some level of uncomfortable harassment that I was dealing with. And I didn't always feel supported by my leadership when situations would happen. And don't get me wrong, some of my leadership was absolutely amazing. They did the best that they could with the allowances that they had available to them to try to support me, where others I felt I was just being kind of dismissed. So from there, I decided that I needed to have more control over who I allowed in my space. I didn't want my safety to be in the hands of anybody else. I wanted to have more control over that. So I opened my own private practice. I opened it March 1st, 2020, and I shut down March 7th due to the pandemic. But in those 7 days that I was open, I had my first ever intentional client genital exposure. So now, again, I was put in the position where I had to navigate this traumatic event while also trying to navigate the weight of the pandemic and what that meant for the industry, what that meant for my small practice, what it meant for the family. It was just a lot to have to deal with in that moment of time. I immediately started to spiral into a depressive episode. So I started working with my accountability coach. Her name is Erin Brown, and she's the owner of EB Speaks and Resilience in Action. And she helped me navigate this. She helped me realize that I shouldn't give up on myself or my dream or allow these situations to knock me down from all that I've worked so hard to accomplish. And that is the catalyst for the ethics course. She really challenged me to turn my own traumatic experiences into something that could be educational and helpful for other massage therapists. Because if I'm going through all of this, there's no way that this is isolated. And I'm sure other massage therapists are also dealing with similar situations and similar traumas that they're trying to navigate on a day-to-day basis in this stigmatized industry. The course itself is NCBTN approved. We talk about gaslighting and power dynamics and how to recognize those predatory red flags, how to recognize gaslighting behavior, and then how to confidently screen and terminate therapeutic relationships. I don't know if you're familiar with gaslighting, but gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation that is intended to make victims doubt their perceived reality. This topic was super important to me in this course because this is what I felt like I was receiving the most of when I was trying to speak out about some of the harassment that I was receiving. Every time that I would talk about it, either from clients, if I'm trying to reestablish a boundary or educate them in a certain behavior, or from colleagues, leadership, family, I felt as though I was met with comments like, well, that's just the industry, get over it. Or that won't bother me. I don't understand why it's bothering you. Or are you sure he was watching porn in the courtyard? Those phrases make us doubt ourselves. It makes us second guess our gut and our confidence, and then we don't know how to navigate these situations, or if what we're feeling is real, or if we're overreacting. And gaslighting itself was a coin turned as something that abusers use to victimize their victims. But it can also be unintentional. So those comments that I was receiving, even from my support system, I don't think that they were malicious. I think they may have been coming from a very good place, trying to help me navigate the situation. However, they're still dangerous. And there's still those psychological turmoil that comes with the gaslighting itself. That's why I feel like it's so important that we recognize it. So we recognize when it's happening to us, and we also can recognize when we're starting to do it to other people unintentionally. And in this industry, we're all aware of power dynamics. Generally speaking, in the therapeutic relationship, that power differential is in our favor as the professional, the educated, licensed, or certified therapist. The client trusts us with their care. However, sometimes due to societal constructs such as age, gender, race, that power differential can shift away from us as professionals and into the favor of the client, when the client or the therapist consciously or subconsciously believes that the client is superior than the therapist. And that's when we can start to transition into a more dangerous territory. That's when those manipulation tactics can start to occur, and when that gaslighting can also begin, when we try to shift back into holding the power differential. It's important that we maintain healthy professional boundaries from the very beginning of every therapeutic relationship in order to maintain that power differential in our favor. I shared these screenshots with you today because a former student of mine recognized some red flags that were pushing her boundary. And I feel as though she handled this very flawlessly. So the client texted and said that they would never complain about getting a text message from her, which to me is a red flag in itself. They were gauging to see if she had a man, red flag number 2. They were telling themselves that they needed to behave, red flag number 3. And then they were sending a random text message after midnight. So again, just a pile of red flags here. And my former student decided that the boundary that she wanted to establish was actually the termination of the therapeutic relationship altogether. So she simply stated, I'm going to have to cancel your appointment today. I strive to keep my career actively business, and after your comments, I cannot move forward with a professional relationship with you. I recommend that you book another therapist for future treatment. She was clear, she was professional, and she was directly to the point unapologetically. And this client apologized because I feel as though they recognized that their behavior was inappropriate, so they didn't push back. However, some clients will. They'll push back, they'll be argumentative, they won't accept this termination. They'll start to use that gaslighting. That wasn't my intention. You're misunderstanding me. So my advice, if that were to happen, is to keep it short and unemotional. Simply state, I stand by my decision on this, and then end the conversation. Block them if you have to, but I wouldn't engage any further if you decide to terminate the relationship like she did. Now, let's talk about the trope that plagues our industry, the happy ending jokes. Happy endings is ingrained in our society. We see it in media all the time, TV shows, movies. Whenever we're discussing massage therapy, there's always some sort of sexual narrative in the media. And as a society, the public can't separate what they're seeing in the media and what they're seeing in the news from our profession itself. So I want to make it clear that these happy ending jokes, they're not harmless by any means. The massage parlors and the happy endings that we know today are typically engaging in human trafficking. So there is a link between illegal massage businesses, and I say illegal massage businesses because that's a coin that's turned. However, these are typically sex trafficking fronts. So these jokes and the frequenting of these establishments are contributing to modern day slavery and putting a lot of lives in danger, not just massage therapists, but also the general public. According to Polaris, sex trafficking fronts pretending to be massage businesses are amongst the most common venues for sex trafficking. In America, sex trafficking is a $32 billion industry, and they're estimated to be 9,000 active fronts pretending to be massage therapists. Human trafficking is the third largest form of organized crime, just behind drugs and guns. And this stigma, it affects us. It puts us in danger because, again, the public is seeing these fronts pretending to be a massage and unable to separate the fact that we are professionals and this is an illegal activity. So there were 2 recent studies of massage therapists that were polled. 75% have been harassed or assaulted at work, with 27% being harassed or assaulted more than once. And only one of those instances were actually reported to the police. Research shows that research shows that there are many forms of physical and psychological consequences of sexual harassment, including anxiety, depression, and trauma. So sexual harassment can take its toll on us mentally and physically. So what can we do to stay safe? We know that the stigma is alive and we know that it is seeping over into our profession. So how can we protect ourselves from this harassment and from this solicitation? First and foremost, I think we need to be proactive. We want to try to get ahead of this and prevent the solicitors and the potential predators from getting on our table in the first place. Having clearly defined policies and screening process is one way we can do that. And to be clear, I'm not saying that this is the end all be all on how we can prevent them from coming in, because they still can, but this process has significantly reduced the amount of solicitors and predators that I see personally on my table. So policies. Having posted policies can help establish us as a professional and legitimate business. Policies will set the expectations regarding the client-therapist relationship. They'll keep clients and us as therapists accountable by setting those transparent standards. And they'll ease client termination by demonstrating reasonable cause. So if we turn our boundaries into a policy, as clients start to push those boundaries, we now have a reason to terminate the relationship because they've actually violated a policy that we have in place. And then also screening every client. Screening clients will allow us to recognize those red flags of sexual solicitors, and it'll establish an environment that is less permissible of predatory behavior. So we can gauge to see if these are clients that are coming in for legitimate professional therapeutic massage, or if these are clients that are looking for illicit activities. And then raising awareness. So all awareness begins with education. We can create educational materials or documentations to hand out to our community as a great way to promote awareness and support, using our website, our blog, social media outlets, any platforms that we have created to educate our followers on what massage therapy is and the modalities that you specialize in. Inform the public on licensing, certification, education, and insurance requirements, anything needed, the steps that we have to take to become professional massage therapists, and explain the benefits of regular massage treatments and why we're considered healthcare professionals. This will help build credibility for our profession and for us in our communities. And report every incident. If we start to normalize filing police reports against sexual solicitors, we can begin to deter the solicitation as a whole while validating and empowering the victims. In most jurisdictions, you can report an incident by calling the non-emergency line, or some of them you can even report an incident online. So it just depends on the area that you're in. I suggest creating a typed or written document of everything that happens and including all of the names and contact information of anybody involved or any witnesses. This will help the police with an investigation if one is launched. But also, file a report even if you don't plan on pressing charges or having an investigation launched. This will help with a paper trail. If this person is harassing us, who's to say they're not harassing our colleagues? And just because the incident may have been small and not large enough to project this investigation doesn't mean that it might not, somebody else might not in the future. So having that paper trail to establish a pattern will hopefully help with a conviction later. And then when the police report becomes available, get a copy for your own records as well. And then client confidentiality. Although we should always be practicing under HIPAA best guidelines, not all of us actually fall under HIPAA. We may fall under our state's confidentiality bylaws. But in either case, we are allowed to we are allowed to give the police confidential healthcare information such as name, phone number, and address when filing a report. So HIPAA or not, we can give that information to the police when filing a police report. If you would like to get ahead of it and inform your clients that you can and will give their information to the authorities if needed, you can add it to your policies or your informed consent, law enforcement disclosure or confidentiality clause, however you want to name it. You can get ahead of it. And then this will also help set the expectation that certain behavior will not only not be tolerated, but the authorities will also be involved if it gets to a certain point. So what is my hope? My hope is that through the power of education and awareness, we can begin to end the stigma that plagues our industry. It's important that we educate the public on the benefits of massage therapy and that we continue to call out the problematic tropes that endanger the vulnerable public as well as us as a massage therapist. And as an industry, we allow therapists the space to speak out against harassment and the experiences while supporting them as needed. And then speaking of support, please consider joining the LMTS for Zero Tolerance Facebook group. It is a group that is intended to share resources, support, and assistance to therapists combating harassment. If you're in a situation with a client that you need help navigating, the group is there to support you. If you have read an article or taken a class that you found helpful for you and your safety and you would like to share it with your colleagues, please share it to the group. If you yourself have created a course or resources for safety, please again, feel free to share it to the group. I feel as though together is the best way that we can build awareness and reduce the stigma that plagues our industry. And then that concludes my presentation today. I am here for any questions that you may have. If you have a question that you would rather ask me in private, you can definitely email me at the email address listed on the screen at info@Fleming-Massage. Or if you need help navigating a situation or have a question after this webinar, again, feel free to reach out. You can email me or you can contact me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at P-Fleming-Massage. And then Karen, did we have any questions?
You know, I've been looking for questions. We have not had any come through. I know that you gave such great information, and everyone here who attended today will receive a link via email to this recording. So I can imagine that as people process this information and all the resources that you provided, that it could really start a new conversation within the massage industry. So I want to thank you. This webinar was so important and educational, and I know it will help massage therapists create more safety in their session rooms.
That is my hope as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's exciting that you have the Facebook group and everything's getting going now with greater understanding among the general public and massage therapists. So I want to remind everyone that you can learn more about Priscilla and her classes also at pflemingmassage.com. You'll receive that email with a link to the recording, and just want to say thank you, Priscilla, and thank you everyone for joining today.
Thank you again. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.